Hi, everybody. I'm Nicole Mahalski, and I want to welcome you to the Your Best Life Yet Summit. In the summit, we're going to look at all areas of your life, from personal, career, and business to home and even relationships. Our expert guests are going to share with you their strategies and insights so that you can live your best life yet, allowing you to create more joy, time, money, and freedom in your life. I'm so excited to introduce you to today's guest speaker. Tricia Brouk is in the entertainment industry. She writes, directs, and choreographs for film, TV, and theater. Tricia has worked on Black Box on ABC, Rescue Me on Fox, and The Affair on Showtime. She's received a Golden Thumb Award from Roger Ebert for her work on John Turturro's Romance and Cigarettes, where she's worked closely with Kate Winslet, Susan Sarandon, Bobby Cannavale, Eddie Izzard, Steve Buscemi, and her dear friend, the late James Gandolfini. She also hosts a podcast called The Big Talk on iTunes, and she is the executive producer of TEDx Lincoln Square in New York. She's written 2 musicals, a featured film, a short film, a pilot series, and even contributed a chapter to the new book called A Life in Dance. In addition to the showbiz part of Tricia's life, she owns The Big Talk, a company where she applies her expertise to the art of public speaking. Welcome, Tricia. I am so excited to have you here today.
Thank you so much for having me, Nicole. I'm thrilled.
I've asked Tricia here today because I was so inspired by the way that she says yes and has really created a movement around that I think that we should all follow and get behind too, because it just opens up so many opportunities for us. So I want to hop right into that. And can you tell us how saying yes has affected your life?
It's a great question. Saying yes has affected my life from the very beginning. I have always had a fearless way of approaching my life professionally and personally. And I feel like saying yes opens up the room for possibility in your life. If you give yourself permission to say yes with the potential of failure, knowing that you're going to learn something because of that, you will open up your world and the possibilities are endless. I worked on a feature film with John Turturro because I said, yes, I can choreograph this movie. I had not choreographed a feature film before, but I knew that I would show up, I would do the work it would take, I would research what I needed to, and I could choreograph this film. And by saying yes to him, I opened up the world of show business. I became a choreographer and a director for film and television and theater. And I met my husband because I was in theater. And eventually, my dear friend Petra Kolber, who is a speaker and a happiness coach and an author, she was doing a TEDx and she had come to see many of the shows that I had choreographed and directed and written. And because I was in show business by saying yes to John Turturro, she came to my shows and then approached me and said, would you like to direct my TEDx Syracuse? And I thought, yes. I have no idea what that means. Let me do some research on what it means, what a TEDx is versus a keynote. And from there, I started the Big Talk. 1 year ago, I created the Big Talk, which is where I apply my expertise as an artist and as a director, writer, choreographer to the art of public speaking. So saying yes will create a ripple effect of potential that you cannot even see. So I suggest everyone say yes. And I don't mean, Nicole, that you should say yes and be unprepared. You have one opportunity when you say yes to someone to get it right. So run to the computer, run to somebody who knows more than you. Ask them for help, become an expert, do the research, do your homework, and show up prepared. Because you have one opportunity when someone asks you and you say yes to nail it. And then they will continue to ask you because you've proven yourself.
I think you bring up so many great points in there. I know for myself, and I'm sure a lot of our other audience too, we say no almost kind of by instinct because we don't think we know enough yet to be able to do that, or we don't think that, we have enough experience or knowledge. And what a great point, and something that I believe in, is that knowledge really comes from actually applying yourself and doing it. So if you say yes, you're making that commitment, and you better get your butt out there and run and learn what you need to do, because that's how you're going to start achieving things. And we just need to
And
get past that.
yes, and you're making a commitment to yourself. You are saying, I am the person who can do this. And that's what's so important as well. If you're constantly saying no to people because you don't feel like you can do it or you're the person, what you're saying no to is yourself, not the person who's asking something of you. So if you can say, yes, I know how to do this, or yes, I'm not sure I know how to do this, but I'm going to make sure that I do by the time the deadline hits, you've just given yourself permission to expand and grow. And that is incredible.
And I kind of think that that's what life is all about, is just really going after all those opportunities and learning and experiencing as much as we can. So can you tell us, what does saying yes mean to you?
Saying yes means giving yourself permission to fail. It means opening the door to possibility. And it means creating opportunity where you can live a bigger life, create more happiness, and then attract people who also want to create a bigger life and live in more happiness. So you are creating yes all around you. And that's also, I want to say that there are boundaries that you should have. Saying yes to every single thing is not what I'm talking about. I have very, very clear boundaries. I believe that saying no means you're saying yes to yourself. So if someone says, I'd really like you to come away with me for the weekend to this retreat or to this lecture, and it's going to be amazing, maybe it is. But if I know that it's going to create stress, anxiety, limited time for me to accomplish what I need to, then I say no to that person. I say no to that event, because I need to say yes to myself so I can create what I need to, make sure that I have the space to function at the highest possible level and to run all my businesses and to be fully present in my relationships. So I don't mean you should say yes all the time and run yourself ragged and exhaust yourself. Clearly know when you're saying yes, and when you're saying no is also saying yes to yourself.
I love how you word that, and how we should look at when we do need to say no is actually a yes to ourselves. Because I know for a lot of the busy moms that are watching this, we can definitely get caught up in the, we don't want to say no. We don't want to say no to our kids. We don't want to say no to our friends. And by the end of the day, we're just exhausted, and we really haven't accomplished all the things that we want to accomplish to move us forward. So really looking at that no as a yes for us is an amazing point of view. And I think will help a lot of people really figure out what's important and make sure that they're doing what's right for them and what's going to move them forward.
Absolutely.
So we talked about this a little bit, and how has saying yes made a difference in your life?
I think that it has given me the ability to let go of any fear. If I don't know what I'm doing, I do the research to find out ahead of time so that I show up prepared. I always find the answer, whether it's research or asking someone who knows more than me. That's how I apply saying yes. That's how I believe you can use the power of saying yes to expand and grow personally and professionally.
That's an amazing point of view, and amazing way to say yes and use that in your life to really push yourself and to, again, just learn what you need to learn. It doesn't have to be a scary thing saying yes. You can always Google, like you said, go on the internet, find an expert, just do the research and don't be afraid of that. Is there any instances where saying yes might have backfired on you?
I was just going to say, and sometimes saying yes can turn into a disaster, but who cares? Who cares? You can clean up the mess. I have absolutely said yes to artistic collaborations that I knew in my gut were not sitting right with me. And I said yes anyway because I wanted to either help this person or collaborate, or I thought that the subject, the material was interesting. And I said yes, and it did backfire We ended up separating as collaborators. Creatively, we were not compatible. And I think that's an important thing to consider. If you are saying yes, but your intuition is saying there's something not right about this, trust that inner voice, trust that gut. And we all know this, we all hear it all the time. But your inner voice is usually right. So whether you're taking a gig because it's money, because it's out of town, it's in Hawaii, it's an amazing opportunity. Think really hard about what your gut is telling you and listen, because sometimes you have to say no. And then again, you're saying yes to yourself, because had I said yes to myself and no to this creative collaboration, I would not have had to deal with that separation. So I learned that lesson.
Again, great points of view too. I know that a lot of us, we always have that little tingle that maybe something is kind of gnawing at us that we shouldn't be doing this, or maybe we should be doing this. And we kind of brush it off and not really listen to it because we maybe think we should just do it anyway, or we should do this to help somebody else, even though in our heart, it's not quite sitting there where it should be. And again, just really allowing yourself to say no and listen and trust yourself are all great things that I think a lot of us need to do more of during our day. So people always talk about boundaries and how we need to really get comfortable with saying no and why that's so important. We talked a little bit about that, switching it to the yes for us. But what do you have to say about that, really creating those boundaries?
When you create boundaries for yourself, you create immediate respect. Everybody knows what to expect from you and of you, and it makes everything go smoother from the beginning. If you're going into a job or a scenario or meeting with a new client and you haven't set up the boundaries, there is way too much room for miscommunication that often shouldn't happen. So always set boundaries, always create boundaries, whether it's your friends, your family, your spouse, or your coworkers. Creating boundaries is not a bad thing. Creating boundaries allows us to understand where we're at so that we can function at the highest level, knowing this is what I'm expected and this is what I'm expecting.
And again, I think it gives the other party as well the knowledge of where you're at and what they can expect from you. And, just having that two-way conversation, it works both ways. If you set your boundaries, then you're going to expect other people to set boundaries, and you guys can work to really create what it is that you need to create in your projects and other areas of your life without having to worry about, well, I wonder if they're understanding what I'm meaning by this, or if they're really respecting what I want to do here. It's a great way to really just kind of lay it all out there, and then you guys can move forward and carry on.
Definitely.
So how can we really apply saying yes in our daily life? Because I know for a lot of viewers, they might be a little bit scared. We're so used to saying no right away. I think it's our way for our brain to kind of protect us. So how can we switch that to really being open to saying yes more?
I think you can wake up and say, yes, it's a new day. Yes, I'm going to go to the gym. Yes, I am going to do amazing work because I'm an amazing person. If you create the positivity by thinking yes first, you can accomplish so much. So I apply yes to simply waking up. Yes, a new day. That's a big deal. A lot of people don't wake up.
That is true. And for those of us that maybe lie in bed and keep hitting the snooze button, it's a great way to just say, you know what, we're saying yes the first time, and we're just getting out of bed and starting our day that way. You've given us so many great examples of how saying yes can really change our life. I want to transition now into talking about your big talks and the work you've done with TEDx, because I know a lot of our viewers maybe have the aspiration to become a speaker or do more public speaking. I know that was something for me that really that's something I've always wanted to do. And so coming into your work and seeing all the great stuff that you've done with that, I think we need to share that with our audience as well.
Thank you, Nicole. I always say take your big talk or your TEDx or your keynote off of your bucket list and put it on your to-do list. You do have something important to say, and we do want to hear it. So if you can say yes to yourself and yes to being worthy and valued to giving a talk, then the next step will be easy. I became a director of public speakers and a dramaturg of public speakers by saying yes to Petra Kolber. Since that happened and I began working with more speakers, I realized how incredible this work was. I love working with actors. I love being in the room. I'm an artist. I love being creative. But when you're in a room with actors, it's all about them. When you're in a room with someone who has a very important message to share, it's all about the message and it's all about the talk and the audience. So I fell into, because I said yes, this incredible tribe of human beings who have a very important message to say, and I get to help them say it. So I realized that I could work with speakers on having their voice be heard. I could work with speakers on helping dramaturg their scripts so that what they meant to say was actually what they were saying. And then I realized, well, now I'm helping all these speakers share these incredible, important messages, and I don't have anywhere to put them. So I applied for TEDx. I applied for my license. It took about 3 months. It was a very intense application process, one that I loved and respected very much. They're incredible. TEDx and TED are an incredible organization. I was given my license, TEDx Lincoln Square, and at that point, I had a platform for people to come and take the stage who had very important messages to share. So that's how saying yes opened up the world of the big talk, which then gave me the opportunity to spend time with these incredible people who have very important messages to share. And I get to witness them becoming the speakers that they are meant to be. And that's also one of the most fulfilling experiences of this so far, is not only do I help them get their message clear and get them to a place of delivering it so we as the audience can really hear it and take it in, but I witness people becoming who they're meant to be. And it's just incredible.
That's an amazing point that you brought up, because I think I know for myself and a lot of our audience who may be aspiring speakers, they might be thinking, I don't know if I'm ready to do that. I don't know if I can be that person that gets up there on the stage, but they know that they have a message to share. So how can we take those steps? How do you help the speakers get to be the true person that you know that they're meant to be so that they can share their message with others?
I get out of their way and I reflect back onto them. So the first thing that I do with a speaker is an active listening session. I spend 2 hours listening to them talk about what their idea is or what their message is. And then from that conversation, we end up coming up with many, many, many ideas. We mine for ideas together. And then I reflect that back on them so that they can see their initial idea potentially is not the one they're going to write about. And then I work with them on writing. I help you figure out what kind of writer you are, whether it's longhand or on the computer. And I put together a structure based on several meetings that we have so that you understand this section happens, this section happens, this section happens. So you're not just free falling. And then we go over it and over it and over it and over it until it becomes clear as a draft. Then we make it conversational and we go back over it and turn it into what sounds like a conversation rather than you reading a script. And then I work with speakers on how to deliver this, how to perform it, how to move on stage, how to be still on stage, which is equally as important. So I really work with speakers from the very beginning when they think they have an idea. I help them identify and really land on that one idea. And then I work with you just like I would an actor. making sure the script is telling the right story, making sure your intention is clear when you are talking about a certain section, or when you're sharing information that's really important that we hear. I block it just like I do with choreography. If you have something really important to say, you're going to be still when you say it so that we can absorb it. And then the speaker is ready to take the stage. So it's a process. And that's, I think, where people get nervous. They don't understand. It's so overwhelming. It's like, oh my gosh, how am I going to take the stage? How am I going to come up with one idea? Is my idea important? Do people want to hear my idea? Well, it's not something that happens overnight. This is months and months of research, of meetings, of rehearsal, and of committing to yourself, to saying yes to yourself. The message you want to share is worth it, and we want to hear it.
That's a great point that I heard you bring up. You know, the message that your speakers share aren't always the messages that they start out thinking that they're going to share. And I know, being in the industry a little bit with coaching and all that other stuff, one of the things that I've learned is what I thought I was supposed to be coaching on was totally different than what I ended up coaching on. And it was going through the process and working with different people and having mentors and having somebody really take the time to listen to my story and figure out where I've been, what I've done, to help me work with kind of drafting up my program and delivering the messages and working with people the way that I am now, which is probably the last thing that I wanted to work on or do. But they say your hardest challenge or your most trying times are often the ones that deliver the most powering messages. And that's where you need to go. I'm sure that some of your speakers can relate to that too, thinking that they're starting out one way and then ending up in a totally different area, but really loving that area that they end up in.
I hope so. I mean, resistance is a very interesting behavior. So I feel if you are resisting yourself or the process, it's important to really think about why. It's okay you're resisting, and I've worked with a lot of speakers who are resisting me, resisting the idea, resisting the process. But we eventually get through that resistance. And yes, you're right. On the other side, there's something bigger and better.
That's amazing. So what can somebody do or even start to do today to really start looking at achieving their dream of becoming a speaker?
Start doing it. Start speaking. Put together a 5-minute, a 10-minute talk, and go out and find a community that will hear you do the talk, whether it's your friends, whether it's a Facebook group. Start doing it. You have to just start. And I love the idea of just starting. You are exactly where you need to be right now. So if you put off, oh, I need to do this before I become a speaker. No, you are a speaker. So start speaking. Give yourself a place where you have to talk about something for 5 minutes. And it might be with your family talking about how you make dinner. Why not? Start there. Get comfortable talking to people about things that are important to you. If you are making spaghetti fra diavolo and you loved being in the kitchen and you loved putting the spices together and you loved choosing the pasta, the fresh pasta from the local market, tell us, talk about it. And I think that will allow you to become more and more comfortable with the idea that you're a speaker. And that doesn't mean that you have to be on stage in front of 1 million people and be nervous and have the most amazing idea or be Tony Robbins. What I'm saying is start speaking. The more you put on the coat of being a speaker, the more comfortable you will be when you actually do take a bigger stage.
That's great advice. And, you know, I know a lot of our viewers, and myself included, I tend to wait. I want to learn a little bit more. I want to gain a little bit more experience, maybe doing smaller stuff before I take that big jump or really put myself out there. But really, through all my experiences, and I know that you can relate to this as well, it's just doing it. Doing it is what gives you the confidence. It what gives you the motivation, because I've learned that there's never really a perfect time. Things aren't really going to line up just the way that we want to do it. the way that we achieve that stuff is really getting out there and just starting wherever we can. And your community groups, there are so many great community groups out there that are just looking for people to share their stories and talk with them.
And you can get feedback. You can ask them, how did that sound? Did you understand what I was saying? Was I fidgeting? Did I shift from side to side? Get the feedback early on so that you can train yourself to be a better speaker. And I was also going to say, start writing. Start writing about anything and everything. Keep a journal about all your ideas, about all your thoughts, because at some point you might want to refer back to that when you're being asked to give a big talk somewhere.
That's so true. And I know I get lost. I have all these great ideas. And then throughout the day, they just kind of wander off and I forget about them. So now I pack a little journal in my purse. So when I have an idea, I just write it down right away. Even if I don't get back to it for a few days or a week or a month, at least it's still there and something that you can draw on later on.
Absolutely. I have pages and pages of ideas for plays and musicals and television shows in my phone. And I refer back to them all the time. I would never remember that I wanted to make a musical about this subject if I hadn't written it down. But one day I will. So you have to write that stuff down. And here's another reason, Nicole, that I suggest you all write all that stuff down. You want your brain to be free and empty. If you're constantly trying to remember everything, you'll be so unfocused. If you write it down, you free up space. So write down everything. Write down your grocery list. Write down what you need to accomplish. Write it down so that your brain has the space to be creative and engaged, fully engaged.
That's great advice as well. I know a lot of people that know me, I've got lists kind of everywhere. I've got journals, I've got grocery lists, I've got to-do lists and whatever else. And I just write them down so that I have them, because I know that if I don't, I'm always worried about, is there enough milk at home for the kids, or do I have to stop at the grocery store? So if you just let all that stuff out, you're right, it really does free up your mental space so that you can really focus on the stuff that you do want to achieve. Now, I know there's going to be some other people out there that are like me who think they need to take this big course, or they need to maybe take speaking lessons, or like Dale Carnegie has great books and programs on public speaking and learning how to engage with people. What would you say to our audience members who are like that, thinking that they need to really get all that stuff done before they get started? I know we talked about just going out there and doing it. Is there any advice that you can give them to help just let go of that fear of needing to know it all before?
If we knew everything before, nobody would be having children. Nobody would be getting into relationships. Nobody would be moving. We never know what's going to happen. We never have all the answers. We never, ever are going to have all of the answers. We are never going to be as perfect as we want to be. So why not just start here right now, knowing that what we have to say is important, and there's at least one person out there who wants to listen. So trust that. Trust that. I really, really mean this. I do believe everybody has a story that is so valuable, not only to share with other people, but to bring to life who they are meant to be in the world. And if you can, even by just listening to this, like, trust me, you have a story that's important. I know that, and I believe that. So if you can just trust me for 1 second and write down your idea and go for it, you're going to become the speaker you're meant to be.
That's great advice. Just trust that there are people out there that want to listen to you, and just really start doing it. You don't need to worry about knowing all that stuff or being perfect or whatever your fears might be. All that stuff will come with practice. You just got to get out there and really start applying yourself and doing the stuff that you want to do.
And we don't know what we don't know until we don't know it. So start now. When you figure out that you are missing something, like the writing part is not what I'm strongest at. The memorizing I can do really well, and the delivery, I sound like I'm talking to my friends across the table. I think I should work with somebody on the writing. Or I can write. I'm extremely profound and prolific when I write. I know how to write. I've got tons of scripts, but I am so shy that I can't get on the stage. I have terrible stage fright. Now you know that's where you want to focus your attention with an expert. So you don't know what you don't know until you don't know it.
That's so true. We don't know what we need to learn until we actually get out there and start working on it and doing that. Tricia, you've given us all kinds of great advice. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with us today?
I'm thrilled to be invited to be a part of your summit, Nicole. Thank you very much. If anybody wants to get in touch with me, I would love to take all of your guests up on, I would love to give all of your guests a free ebook, which is called Get Chosen. And it's how to apply and get chosen for a big talk. And you can find that at theartofthebigtalk.com. It's free and it's fun. And I'm really hoping that through this process today, you and your listeners and your audience can trust that public speaking is not brain surgery. Nobody's going to get hurt. You have something important to say, and you could potentially change someone's life by saying it. So don't hold back.
Awesome. I appreciate all your insight and the strategies that you've given us today. And I want to encourage everybody to go to your website. We've got all the links listed in your email that you guys received for the interview today. So all you have to do is just click. The links for the free ebook download will be there as well. All Tricia's social media followings, her website, it'll all be there for you guys to go and check out. And Tricia, again, I just really appreciate you taking the time to be here with us today, really share your inspiration around saying yes and, you know, really helping us to move through that fear and just going after what we want and saying yes and knowing that we've got all the capabilities and everything we need to learn what we need to learn as soon as we say yes and to really go after that. So again, I appreciate all your time and can't wait to see your new talks and listen to those and all the great new stuff that I know that you're working on for us.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome.